Hi, welcome back. This is Faye Jones, and this is the final video number 7 in 7 steps to a meditation practice. I really hope that you have been engaging with this information each day as the email and the download come, and starting to explore this in a way that makes it a very personal experience for you. This is just the very beginning for you, and I wish you well with this because it is an amazing journey, and it's a journey within that brings you to a place that's really quite magical. Anyway, so yesterday we started talking about creating a daily practice and nurturing that consistency with the meditation practice. So everybody says, okay, great, those are wonderful benefits, but how? How do I make time for this? How do I make this happen so that I can continually do this? And I will not lie to you. Somebody told me recently, self-help and personal growth programs are the hardest programs to sell because people want a magic bullet. And this is this is as close to a magic bullet as you get, and you have to do it every day. That's just how it is for you to get the benefits. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be difficult. It doesn't have to be hours on end, but it does have to be daily. So I guess there are really only 2 steps to this process of ensuring that you develop a consistent practice. And the first is to be realistic with your expectations. And the second is to make the commitment. So first, you want to be realistic. So realistic with your time is step number 1. Start small. If what you can do is 5 minutes a day, do 5 minutes a day. But if you do 5 minutes a day every day for 3 months or 6 months or a year, you are going to notice changes in your world. If you have more time, if you can commit to more time than that, great, do that. But start at a place where you know you're going to succeed. What I did when I started was I started with 5 minutes a day, and I did that for about, 3 or 4 weeks, and then I bumped it up to 6 minutes a day. And it didn't feel really that different. So after about a week or so, I bumped it up to 7. But it took me a good part of 3 months, or maybe a little bit more than that, to actually get up to 20 minutes a day, which is what I really like to do. It depends. Only you can be the one who can decide when you make those jumps, those incremental jumps. So be realistic with your time, start small. And the next thing in terms of expectations is just let it be what it is. You may or may not have life-changing experiences, and avoid the tendency that we all have to judge your meditation. It's not good if you have those transforming experiences, and it's not bad if you don't. Just let it be what it is, and I guarantee you that over time, it will transform you. It won't necessarily show up all in one day, and it won't necessarily show up right away, but it will happen. I can guarantee you that without any hesitation. Now, when we're talking about making a commitment, this is a big one. I know that most people have New Year's resolutions. The beginning of every year, I'm going to go to the gym 5 times this week, and it usually drops off pretty quickly. But I think that if you've been realistic in what you're committing to, it's a little bit easier to make that commitment to just sit for 5 minutes a day or 10 minutes a day or whatever it is that you can do. So some tips on this. My personal feeling is I do much better if I do it in the morning. It has a couple of great benefits. First of all, I know it's going to get done. I do it, I have that success already under my belt for the day. But it also puts me into a space where, yesterday I was talking a little bit about that Wonder Woman. It makes me feel a little bit more like I can be really present in my life and be able to deal with things as they come up, have maybe a greater sense of resiliency, I guess is a good word for that. And it also makes you more mindful in your life. So you're aware of the people around you, you're aware of the situations developing around you, and you can respond more quickly and maybe fend off problems before they become problems. So there are a lot of benefits to doing it first thing in the morning. Second thing I would recommend is that you choose same time, same place. Now, obviously that's not always going to happen, but if you have that groove built into your day where your body gets into that space and you say, yes, now it's time to meditate, here I am. If you can't, you can't. I know there are some days when, my mornings are a little more hectic. I don't really have the time in the morning to do that. And then sometimes when I'm sitting outside my daughter's dance studio, I'll sit and meditate in my car. So be opportunistic about it as well. Set the stage for that first thing in the morning routine. And if that routine gets disrupted, which routines get disrupted, then make sure that you've got a plan B. Make sure that you have that level of commitment inside of yourself. And I've literally had times when I was doing my meditation right before I went to sleep because it didn't happen earlier in the day. And it's like, well, I've made the commitment to do this, so here it is, right here at 11:58. The next thing that you may want to do on that same vein is prepare a place. So if you have a space where you can set up a little altar with things that remind you how to come back to yourself and back into your center and to this present moment, you can set up a space like that. If not, like I said, just being in the same place is a nice thing. It's nice if there aren't going to be people coming and going. And it's nice if you can be able to shut a door. And it's nice if the people in your world have some sort of knowledge of what you're doing in the morning. My daughter knows that if my office door is closed in the morning, I'm either doing yoga or meditation and I'm not to be interrupted. Now, that said, she's 13 and it took her quite a lot of years to get to that point. So, be realistic with the people in your life as well and try to be very clear about your communication, about how this is important to you, why this is important to you. The other thing you may want to do is couple it with another activity that is already a routine for you. Like for me, I was doing yoga on a daily basis for a long time before I added meditation to that. So for me, I do my 20 minutes of yoga and then I sit for 15 or 20 minutes in meditation, which works out really well for me. And honestly, to cut out 30 minutes, 40 minutes of my time in the morning to set the stage for the rest of the day, most days it is time well spent. So I have to also say that it doesn't happen every day. So when it doesn't happen, sometimes the meditation comes later, sometimes the yoga comes later. Sometimes I decide, okay, well, I have 15 minutes. I'm going to meditate for 15 and I can do my yoga in the evening. So, you got to be flexible. You got to roll with the way that the day goes for you. But I've heard some people say, oh, they have their tea and then they meditate, or they take their shower and then they meditate, or they meditate and then take their shower. So if you're joining it up with something that is already an established routine for you, that can make it a lot easier. Also, there was a really cool thing. I've never done this with somebody else, but to have a buddy is a great idea. You've got that level of accountability. That's a really nice thing. It can help strengthen your commitment to that daily practice. But I also read something really great recently that somebody said that they keep an excuse book where if they're not going to meditate on that day, they actually physically have to write down the reason why they're not doing it. And I love that because once you get it down on paper, you can either say, yeah, you know what? That is a justified reason for not doing this today. But more often than not, I think what would happen is you'd look at it and you go, God, that's lame. That's no excuse for breaking up the commitment that I have to myself and leaving me out in the cold. So those are two that kind of go together. If you're using the buddy system, it doesn't have to be somebody that you're physically doing it with. It doesn't even have to be that you do it at the same time every day. But if you have someone who you both make that commitment, you can go back and say, wow, I had this really great experience, or wow, this was a really challenging day for me. How's it going for you? And they know, and you know, that these conversations may happen. So it does up the accountability factor and make you more likely to do it. So the again, flexibility, so important. If life doesn't go according to your plan, how do you deal with that? Are you gentle with yourself? Do you let yourself off the hook for every single excuse? Because that's not the same thing. But being flexible, being gentle with yourself, saying, okay, well, I didn't do it this morning, I'm going to do it this afternoon. Or I didn't do it this afternoon, I'm going to do it this evening. Still keeping that commitment to yourself, but doing it in a way where you're not whipping yourself every time you fall off the wagon. And if you miss a day, you miss a day. You get back on the next day and you start again. Now, the final thing that I want to put out there is the way that I actually started my yoga practice. And a friend of mine suggested this 100-day challenge that he's done actually several times in the context of his Qigong and meditation. But you actually commit to whatever the behavior is, whatever the new thing that you want to bring into your life, you commit to doing it for 100 days. And there's a little form where you check off each day that you do it. But the catch is that if you fall off, if you miss a day, you don't just miss a day and pick up where you left off. You start back at day one. So the trick is then to string together 100 days in a row. And I have to tell you, when I first did this, I had the funniest experience because my friend told me he got up to day 46 one time. And on the 47th day he missed. And I was so righteous and so self-competitive that I was saying, there is no way I'm going to fall off. I'm going to do this. And I figured at that point it was great because I was sort of channeling that inner competitiveness and using that as my way of really grabbing hold of the daily practice. And a funny thing happened right around day 46, and that was something shifted inside of me where it no longer became a competition, but it was the commitment that I had made to myself, and it was me not showing up for me if I didn't follow through with it. So that was a pretty cool way for me to get started into that practice. And if that's something that you're interested in, watch your emails because I am going to be sending out either a link or I haven't figured out how to do this yet, but I will be sending you that as a resource. So this is the final video in the video series, 7 Steps to a Meditation Practice. I'm grateful that you've been able to spend this time with me, and I hope that you take this information and bring it into your life in a way that's meaningful for you and in a way that brings you more peace and more joy and more calm in your life. Because as we've seen, particularly in these last 2 days, there are so many benefits to that peace in your life. So I wish you well. Do stay in touch, and you'll be hearing from me soon, I'm sure. Namaste.